We know what Mike Elko accomplished at Duke, and just imagine with the resources and facilities at Texas A&M what the possibilities are. We got Cameron Honesty on the line from Aggie's Wire to help us break it down in a busy offseason as Mike Elko establishes his program in Aggie land. Any difference that you can really tell in the way the program is going to be run under Mike Elko?
Bringing 100% to the program outside of what we knew from his time as defensive coordinator from 2018, 2011, which is a sense of toughness, very elite play calling defensively, somebody who is just a strategic guy, somebody who, understands this program in terms of their blue collar mentality, how they're supposed to play, and something that kind of got away from them over the last couple of years with Jimbo Fisher.
So with 23 additions, and they also lose 23 in the transfer portal, any particular guys? I know that they're looking for impact players, and Texas A&M is not going to take on anybody who's not talented. So without running through 23 players, are there any particular guys that you really think could make a splash?
The biggest name is Nick Scorton, who led the Big Ten in sacks with Purdue last season. That's a guy who's a Bryan, Texas native. I think he's going to come in and immediately make an impact on the defensive line. They saw guys like Walter Nolan, who transferred to Ole Miss, Isaiah Rakes, who is a defensive tackle, who is going to end up having a big impact, most likely next year, taking over for Walter Nolan, that nose tackle position, provide some pass rush. He's gone. He's I believe, going to Syracuse. But the biggest thing that A&M was missing last year was consistent pass rush. I mean, DJ Durkin, A&M's defensive coordinator last year, is now going to Auburn. And one of the biggest gripes that fans had with him was the constant three-man fronts, where you're focusing more on, stopping the pass instead of getting the quarterback. He finally had to change that up. This year, he was finally bringing four more consistently. You saw a bigger impact from guys like Edgerton Cooper, who's obviously going to the NFL. And when Edgerton Cooper did announce, that pass rush was immediately depleted, as well as obviously Nolan leaving, who I believe he had 4 sacks last season. But Scorton has the experience. He's a big guy. He's very versatile. You can move him around on the edge. You can put him in the 3 tech or the 4-eye. He's going to provide also some run defense. But really my biggest thing is when you look at the transfer portal and you look at the biggest weaknesses from last season, it's in the secondary. And A&M just got destroyed in some of the biggest games of the season last year. And I think, outside of A&M fans who are watching every game, kind of the casual fan who saw it, they saw how close some of the games were. And most of them were decided because of big pass plays that, I think it was against Alabama. One of the receivers went for 190 against them. And most of it was in the second half. And it was because of undersized corners who's, some were really meant to play in the slot. Some were just inexperienced on the boundary. And you had to get more size. And Elko, during his time at A&M, I always hark back to guys like Miles Jones, who actually followed him to Duke, is 6'5", is a 6'5" corner. These are pure boundary going against your biggest wide receiver guys. He went out and got B.J. Mays, Des Ricks, who is a former 5-star cornerback from Alabama, just played 1 season in Tuscaloosa. B.J. Mays is a 6'3" corner out of UAB. Donovan Saunders is another 6'3" corner out of Cal Poly. They've gotten a couple safeties who are bigger on the larger stature end. He cares about size. He cares about this combines with the new defensive coordinator, Jay Bateman. It's about limiting big plays. That's his philosophy. And that's going to win you a lot of games. And I know a lot of people care more about, turnovers and especially stopping the run more consistently. But if you can limit big plays in the SEC and you have an offense on the other side that's going to score you a lot of points, which we believe they're going to be much better next season, those are the guys that they got in the portal this year, outside of a couple wide receivers, tight ends that are going to help offensively. But the defense, I think, was not, they didn't solve all their issues. These guys still have to perform in spring, but that cornerback position is just so much better than it's been pretty much ever under Jimbo Fisher, I would say.
Cameron, you mentioned the offensive side of the ball and Colin Klein coming in as offensive coordinator. He was a running style quarterback himself. I don't know if that's what he's going to want to feature.
Yeah.
But first of all, do we expect Connor Weigman's going to be fine for the spring and ready to roll?
Connor Weigman is doing very well. He's been interviewing with Texas. We haven't gotten a chance to talk to him yet. We're probably going to try to get a chance to talk to him when as the spring gets closer. But he's ready to roll. Surgery went very well a couple months ago. He was actually back on the field and not back on the field, back on the sideline with his teammates the last couple games of the season, and he's excited. He's excited. And to answer your first question, the Colin Klein, I guess, the misinformation going out there about how he's going to run off the offense with Texas A&M compared to Kansas State. He has more talent to work with. So yes, he ran the quarterback a lot during his time at Kansas State. Well, they kind of had to. They didn't have the type of 4- and 5-star wide receivers and talented guys that A&M is going to give him to work with next season. I think we will see QB runs. Connor Weigman has that ability. He was one of the best running quarterbacks coming out of the high school ranks, mainly why he was such a high 5-star recruit. Very athletic, but coming off of an injury, especially in that ankle foot area, I don't believe that's going to be a huge part of the game plan. I think they're going to try to keep him safe in the pocket. A&M's O-line is going to be much better next year, I believe, finally, with Adam Cushing, their new O-line coach at the helm, kind of focusing on blocking the man in front of you, something they did not do last year. But really, Connor Weigman, I'm not going to say this is do or die season for him. I mean, he's got another year left of proving himself after the 24 season, if you'd like. But I believe this is huge for his trajectory, whether it's NFL, whether it's finishing his career at A&M, but with a new offensive coordinator, somebody who is finally innovative and progressive in the way that they call plays, and it doesn't get clunky like it did last year with Fisher and Bobby Petrino, where we learned when Bobby Petrino was hired by Arkansas that he kind of spilled the beans and said that Jimbo Fisher was still involved in the play calling. He was just kind of he was calling Jimbo's plays, which is ridiculous. But at the same time, we have to think this is just a new slate with a new coach who's not going to be involved in the offense. Mike Elko is going to be involved in the defense because he's a defensive mind, and him and Jay Bateman have similar philosophies. But you're finally giving the reins to a coach who deserves it, who's proven himself, who's young, and is very, very capable, and he has the quarterback to do it. And if Weigman, God forbid, gets injured, you've got guys behind him and Marcel Reed and Jalen Henderson who are more than capable of running that offense.
Cameron, you mentioned Reed and Henderson. I was going to ask, do you think either one of them have a shot at winning the job?
Not winning the job. I don't believe that at all. I think there's been a thing among the message boards and everybody else talking about Marcel Reed, who completely showed out, kind of showed his skill set in the bowl loss to Oklahoma State. Now, I'll be honest. He is a very, very skilled quarterback. He's a guy who needs to add weight. However, I think he is the future for Texas A&M. I think that's true. Jalen Henderson is a guy who I know a lot of people, because he's returning, are kind of thinking, well, maybe he thinks he can win that job. I don't think that's the case. I think he just loves A&M, and I think he believes that Colin Klein can help enhance his game as well. I don't know where his future lies, and I don't believe he has too much eligibility left, but it is possible in today's age of guys who just want to stay in the program they're in because they enjoy it and they like the coaching staff. But I don't believe they have a shot at beating him. I think it's going to be very competitive. I'll say that because Weigman is coming off of an injury. So when, you're going into spring and we're going to see all three quarterbacks play, he's going to really have to show why he earned the starting position last year, which I believe he will. But it's going to be very interesting. I'll say that we'll be covering it a lot because I do believe that specifically Marcel Reed will put the work in this offseason and get a little bigger and get a little stronger and really show off that arm talent, when they play on April 20th in the maroon and white spring game. So it's going to be interesting, but I don't believe that anybody really has a real shot at beating out Weigman right now. So.
Cameron Honesty joining us. You can check out Cameron's work at Aggies Wire on the USA Today platform for Texas A&M Sports. Cameron, we appreciate you stopping by,
No
sir.
problem. Yep, appreciate it.